As a YouTuber, we all want to make a video that goes viral, a video that everybody's talking about, a video that, well, thousands and thousands of people watching and sharing and subscribing, and a video that can make or break a channel. And I thought to myself, well, my previous video that I made was on the Glen Allen 15-year-old. And I thought to myself, I need something that's a little bit more challenging. Now I put the word out, what is the challenging whiskey? Something that will reset the palate, will challenge the nose, that will make you think, what is in this whiskey? Why is it strange? Why is it different? And of course, why is it such a popular whiskey? And of course, from the thumbnail you've seen, I'm talking about Springbank. Now, I've tried the 10-year-old, the 12, 15, the 17. The 17 for me was absolutely fantastic. That dark, rich flavors that came out definitely fall in that category, a little bit strange, but also quite familiar. So I had a couple of comments with different type of whiskies, and to my surprise, I opened up the online store that I normally get my samples from, and a couple of months ago they had a tasting evening on Springbank, and one of them was the 18-year-old. Well, a little bit rich for my blood, but still quite affordable, apparently, at 160 odd euros for a bottle. I see it's going up 300-400 euros for a bottle. For me, that's a little bit crazy. Now, I don't know the strategy for Springbank. How do they manage to keep on going viral on selling their whiskey? How do they keep the vibe going? And I think it's a good strategy between maybe just making enough of it to ensure that there will be people still wanting afterwards. And of course, the secondary market is absolutely killing this with regards to the prices of this whiskey. So for me, getting any bottle of Springbank in Belgium, especially the cask strength versions of it, totally impossible to get. Only thing that I might be able to pick up is a 10-year-old 46% ABV, as the rest in the online stores here not available. Even just at the release of the whiskies, not available. Now I've looked at the 2023 Springbank 18. I think it was never available. If you didn't know somebody, there's no way that you're going to get a bottle. Even the 46% ABV one was a little bit, well, impossible to get. And of course, on the secondary market, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. But tonight I got myself, kept my eye on this website. I knew they had a tasting. I knew there will be a bottle or half a bottle still left that maybe I can get a nice sample. And I was right. A couple of days ago I went online and I found it, 18-year-old 2022 bottled at 11 July 2022. So I was super excited. Not a cheap one. I paid about €13.50 for this sample, so quite a lot of money. But that is the only thing that they still have left is samples. So I was quite happy to try it. They also have a 21-year-old at €31.50 for a sample, 30 milliliters. So that's a lot of money even for a wee dram like this. If you pour it, this is it, €31.50 for the 21-year-old. So it is a lot of money, but if you want to buy it, the initial price was €365 for this whiskey. Hey, that's a lot of money, and there's no way that I can afford paying that for a 21-year-old. So super excited to get a sample of the 18-year-old. I was hoping for the 2023 edition. I hear a lot of good things about it, so I'm probably I'm a year behind. A lot of YouTubers have reviewed this already. A lot of them like them, some of them not so much. But for me, it is about finding something different, something strange, with a little bit of a funky note that can reset the palate. I was a little bit disappointed in myself. And a lot of people, I even lost one of my subscribers on my Glen Allenke 15-year-old review. I think they didn't like the idea that I said, I like it, but I need something more. Well, don't take anything personal. It is just my opinion, and of course my opinion doesn't really count for a lot of people. But on to tonight's whiskey, the 18-year-old. It's 2022 edition. It is bottled at 46% ABV. There's a maturation of 65% ex-bourbon cask, and then they have a 35% sherry cask, a little bit of a marriage between the two. It's, of course, it's Springbank, it's natural color, non-chill filtered. Of course, it's a family-owned distillery. They do it from the barley, growing right until the distillation, right into the bottling. So everything is done in-house, and I think that's also maybe the reason, or one of the reasons, that they are going viral. That same with Glenfarclas. It's that family tradition, that family owned, that values that they bring in the selecting of the cars. They do play the fiddle with regards to that, and I think a lot of people like that idea, that they are trying to doing something the old school way and not try to make any shortcuts. So color wise on this 18-year-old, it's not really dark. I was a little bit surprised on this one. You see some of the photos that they have online is very much dark in the bottle, but I think once you pour it, it's not so dark. I was not sure about which year it was, so I emailed the online shop here in Belgium, and I asked him. They graciously took the bottle off and they took a picture of the barcode, so I was sure which year it was. So very nice of them, and I really appreciate all the nice whiskies that I can get from them at a reasonable price. So the first thing that I do pick up, it's that there's a light sweetness. Now, I was expecting a little bit more sweetness on the nose. I just see sherry cask, and immediately the brain goes into overdrive, and I'm looking for a lot more sherry. For me, the sherry is there, but it's a little bit more of that bourbon notes that actually come out with that little bit of a background with the sweetness. Now, for me, I was looking at my previous video. I will put a link at the end card if you want to go watch it. Actually doing very well. I think a little controversy helps sometimes. But for me, this is definitely different. And I was looking for something different. I was looking for that strangeness. I was looking for that whiskey that you sit back and you think to yourself, there's a familiarity to it. There's something that the memory bank picks it up and realize, yeah, I get that sherry, I get that bourbon. And when you go back, it's like, what the hell is that? Is this peated? Is that non-peated? I'm not 100% sure. Grab the iPad, go look. Yeah, definitely there is a hint of peat in it, and I definitely get that, but it is so low, and it's sweet peat for me. And of course, people that know me, I do like a little bit of a sweet peat moment, and this is definitely it. But that sweetness with that light peat, it's like a little bit of an ashy type of peat. It does create something that is a little bit strange on the nose. And I do so appreciate a little bit something strange now in my life. So nice on the nose. There's a little bit of a oaky, dusty note coming out. That sherry, definitely, I'm picking it up, but it is definitely playing background. I think that bourbony notes is definitely in the foreground for me on this one. What I also picked up on this one, after I poured it, I immediately put it to the nose. It was a little bit rough for me. That was a little bit in your face. There was a little bit of a harshness of the alcohol, and there was a little bit of a harshness of the flavors that came out, and it contributed to that strangeness for me. But if you give it 5 minutes, 6, 10 minutes in a glass, it completely changed for me, and you climatize to that peat note. That little ashy note slowly disappears, a little bit more sweetness come out. I get a little bit of that toffee note, a little bit of a chocolate note, but a very light, dark chocolate note coming out. I get a little bit of a spiciness and a little bit of something that my son also picked up, a little bit of a peppery note. So there's a spiciness. So on the nose, it feels a little bit higher than that 46% ABV, especially if you just wake it up a little bit and you stick your nose in, you get a little bit of a spicy note. And immediately within a 2, 3, 10 seconds, that settles down again, well balanced, a little bit dusty note coming out, a little bit of a dried fruit component from the sherry notes. And when you sit and you think to myself, every time I go back, there's a little bit difference. I get a little bit of an apricot note now. And when I get something that I didn't pick up earlier, a little bit more vanilla than the first time that I've tried this one. But on the nose itself, even I just like to wake it up a little bit. And just to get that extra flavors that comes out. Now it is 46% ABV. I'm not sure if I want to proof it down. For me on the nose, it's perfect, even with that agitation. So on the taste, cheers. Bloody hell. Now for me on the taste, now I was complaining I want something strange, something different, and definitely this one is delivering for me that strangeness, that difference, that's something that I'm thinking, I've tasted this before, I tasted some of the elements before. Of course the cherry notes is definitely there, but the fact that I'm using 65 bourbon percent and 35 sherry percentage, I think that tips the scale to the bourbons. And I do appreciate the lightness of it. It is still very sweet, but it makes it a little bit younger for me. It makes it a little bit more fresher for me. A little bit more fresh fruit, a little bit more of an apple note, maybe something like a apple cider, just a hint of that flavors that comes out. A little bit more fresher for me on the taste. Just give it one more try. Now, I do get that peat, but it's definitely right at the back. You get that little bit of a peaty note. It's not a TCP of a hospital or a Band-Aid type of peat. It's more towards a savory side, a little bit more on an ashy side. So quite pleasant for me. I really enjoy the peat level on it, maybe 5, 6, 7 ppm, so it's very low. And you really have to go look for it to find it on the taste. And I think it brings a nice balance to this whiskey. Now the alcohol, 46% ABV. I just want to make sure that level for me is perfect. Definitely not going to add water to it. There's on the third sip that I took now, I get a hint of a tannin. How they did it, I don't know. Normally something that's 18 years old in a cask, sometimes I get a little bit too much of a tannin, a little bit too much of that dark notes, that little espresso notes, that little bitter notes. So sometimes it can be a little bit of overpowering for a whiskey. But this one, I think they got a perfect balance on this one. So really nice. And every time that I go back, and I keep on saying, but I get a little bit more. Just give it one more try. It definitely tastes a little bit younger for me on the palate. There's that youthful note that comes out. If I would have guessed, if somebody give me this blind, I would say maybe 15 years old, 12 to 15 years old. Sorry, Springbank. But there is a youthful note in it. And I think that's a bourbony influence that created little lightness for me on the flavors. But it is really nice. On the taste as well, not every time I get that little bit of an orange note or something that tastes like the end of when you open up a fresh passion fruit and you cut it open, you take in just one or two of those pips and you put it in your mouth. It gives me that little bit of a passion fruit note in the end as well. Oh my word, this is really nice. It is something that really challenges you. And I think that if you're the normal whiskey drinker, if you like the Glenallankeys, the safe, friendly whiskies, and you go to this one, I think you're going to be quite surprised with the strangeness in it, the difference in it. And sometimes I think you're also going to sit back and say, I'm not sure what I'm getting, but I do like it. There's a little bit of a ginger note coming out as well. And I picked up this one a little bit earlier. Little ginger biscuits that we get here in Belgium. Just a hint of that on the nose as well. A hint of that caramelized or crystallized ginger note that I pick up. One more try. This is going to be a dangerous one. Of course, it's going to be dangerous for the tasting, dangerous for drinking, and of course, if you want a full bottle, it's going to be a dangerous for your credit card. Quite an expensive one. So that is me on the Springbank 18-year-old. Was looking so forward to this one. I couldn't wait to open up my sample box, grab it, take it, and do a review. Spent a little bit of time today and yesterday with the sample. And I must admit, I am happy. And yeah, now the search is on when I can get my hands on the 2023 edition. Well, hopefully soon I can give it a go and maybe do a little bit of a comparison. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. And I see you next time. Cheers.